What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. As always, each and every episode is brought to you by All I Need. If you are in need of a new skateboard or some apparel, we have you covered. Please check out ALLiNEEDSKATE.com. We have tons of All I Need skateboards and apparel up there. We also have 6 to 7 different World Industry decks up there. We have our brand new brand, which is Spare Skateboards, from the minds of myself and Nick Barth. We have 3 different spare decks up there right now to check out. And again, that is all available at ALLiNEEDSKATE.com. Our guest today is Chris Reuland from OuiCommuniscate. Chris teaches English lessons using skateboarding. This is my first time meeting Chris. He is the man, and he's doing awesome stuff.
I grew up in a very tiny country in Belgium, just above Luxembourg, between France, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, really small. And I actually moved and went to live in the UK, and now I'm in the States, in Connecticut.
You're in Connecticut?
I am, yeah.
Nice.
I'm married to. Sorry.
No, you're not too far from me. I'm in Massachusetts.
I know. We're neighbors.
Very cool. Yeah. So what was it like growing up there, man? Where'd you spend most of your time? Where did you find skateboarding? Did you find it over in Europe?
So I'm just trying to. Sorry for my lack of concentration. I'm just trying to get a white square out of the recording here, the Zoom. I can't see you, Anthony. That's why I look very distracted because there's a whole white banner here. But I've minimized
crazy.
it. I'm sorry. You can edit this, can't you? I'm sorry about this.
Oh yeah, no worries. Was it like a pop-up ad?
Okay. Should I do that again?
No, you're fine.
So I discovered skateboarding, that would be around 1989. I was a roller skater in the beginning, and I think you could call it the second rebirth of skating. That there'd been several waves in skating. I think technically, you can correct me on this, I think technically this is the fourth wave of skating, or
That's a good question. I know it's got to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the historians of skating say that there was the first one in the 70s, the 80s. So I started at just at the tail end of the whole the glory days of the vert skaters and Alva and all that, and just when street skating was starting off again with companies like H Street and whatnot. So that would be 1989.
Yeah, that's sick, man. Yeah, you started a little earlier than me. I started pretty much in the 90s. Like H Street was before me. I got in pretty much like X Games, a little, stuff like that. Maple Skateboards was going on, 4-in-1 Video Magazine,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
I still have the 4-on-1. I think I bought the second, or it seems hard to imagine these days that you actually had to go into a skate shop and buy a VHS tape to have your skateboarding news.
Oh yeah, that was a trip. That was definitely a trip waiting for those things to come out and then having to get the VHS or even the magazines, just waiting for the mags to come out to see what like the progression is. Yeah, it seems unfathomable nowadays,
Yeah, I think I remember skate. I don't even know if you could call it an industry. I think it was pre-industry. It was you had a few companies going, and it's not like now because you just mentioned the X Games, but I sort of I didn't see that skating. I sort of I missed that whole part. I think I was just before, and I never really got to know the X Games, but I know it led to bigger things. And
Yeah, I started skating in New Hampshire, in a real small town. So when I first got a skateboard, I didn't really know much about like the skateboard industry, because on the East Coast, it's still not even as big as it is out west,
Yeah.
But I kind of like got into it, like you were saying, through the magazines and the videos, just waiting for them to come across the country and hit us with the skating culture,
Yeah, I don't think that back then there was distribution in place as there is now.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. Well, you said you were roller skating before that, like 4 wheels on each skate, not like
Yeah.
rollerblading.
No.
Skating.
Actual 8 wheels. They had these big crypto wheels, red wheels, and I used to go to what they called a roller disco. If you've ever seen these, you know, you just went around in a circle, and there was a disco music and whatnot. And there was a mini ramp there and a little skate shop. And from one thing to another, I just started to see more and more skateboarding. And I just figured, from looking at the way they were dressed, the gear they were using, I gradually understood that there was a lot more depth to it than roller skating. It had its own little culture, you know, the tricks, as I mentioned, the clothes, and it just caught my attention. And gradually I transitioned from one to another, from roller skating, which essentially I thought didn't have as much depth as skateboarding, you know, apart from going fast and jumping, and you know, there's not that many tricks you can really reasonably do.
Yeah, I feel like people try with the roller skates. I see them at the skate park. There's usually some girls that roll up and they're like pretty good on it, and they're doing like some tricks and stuff, but it's definitely it's not skateboarding, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, starting skateboarding, I quickly learned there were so many variants that you could do. You know, you could grab your tail, you could grab your board on the nose, stale fish, sad, you could grab the tail, you could do so many things. But roller skating, you know, move forward, you go, I don't know what they call it, but I don't know if they call it a fakie, or, you know, you could put your feet like this, put your feet like this, and it was just a lot more limited. So transition towards skateboarding.
Yeah, it's hard to compete when you're like you have to actually balance, you're not strapped to the thing or holding on. It's the same with like the scooters. Like I'm always like, it can't compare to skating, because in skating you actually have to let go of the handlebar and you got to fully be balanced and stay on that thing. Like you're fully engaged that way. Whereas when you're holding on, you're stuck in one position. Same with the roller skates and the roller blades. It's like it's strapped to your feet. So I mean, you still got to balance, but you can't fall off of it, really, you know?
No. There was someone in a very old skate magazine who compared the like three sports. I think they compared rollerblading, which we're not supposed to call rollerblading, rollerblading, skating, and snowboarding. And they said, you know, it takes hours to learn rollerblading, years to learn skateboarding, and probably, you know, days or weeks to learn snowboarding.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah, skateboarding, you just it's all about, you have to do it all the time. And if you fall, it really does hurt. And you have to really commit to skateboarding. You know it better than I do.
Yeah. I definitely love skateboarding. It's definitely holds my attention because it's hard, you know. A lot of those other ones there, the learning curve isn't steep enough. I feel like I see that they kind of have a hard time because the kids all get to like 16 and they can all do backflips, and then it's like, what do we do next? It's like double backflips, and then it's like, okay, well now you're at the top of the mountain and everyone can backflip.
Which sports?
Like rollerblading,
Yes.
Scootering's a funny one to me too, because they do like the tail whips and they do like triple, and it's like, it's almost like the learning curve's not steep enough, because every little kid can do it pretty easy and get fairly good real fast, you know. With skating, at least it seems hard enough. Although nowadays it's like the stuff people are doing, it blows my mind, you know. I'm like, wow, even little kids are just like pushing the boundaries of everything in skating. They make it look almost like a video game now. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is funny. Yeah, skateboarding. Before, I think there was a time in skateboarding when you bought your VHS tape, and I remember the power videos coming out, and you had a reasonable chance of watching the video and going to try the tricks afterwards. You know, it was a manageable feat. You know, trying an ollie flip. I remember seeing my first front foot impossible. It was Lance Conklin, I think, doing that in an old power video. It's okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go out and try an ollie impossible or something, or a board slide. But now you watch a video, I think. You can't even try it.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is insane, dude.
Oh yeah, the kids, indeed. I see them on Instagram all the time. I follow so many accounts, and what the kids do. I mean, we're talking about almost toddlers.
Yeah.
You know, doing yeah.
Especially nowadays. I feel like, just kind of going back to what you were talking about before, is like when I was growing up, and even more so when you were growing up, like we didn't see any of the progression or see it because we had to wait for those videos and magazines. And then once you got it, you could
Yeah.
study it and you could be like, oh, that blew my mind. And it could lead you off in different avenues with your progression in skating, and you can incorporate what you saw, and then you know it's possible. Now it's like everyone's on their phone. There's more people than ever skating. People are consuming it, so it's probably it's just
Yeah.
not easier to learn, but you got a lot more information to work off of, you know?
That might be it, because I don't know really why people are so good these days.
I just know when
I
I
just
was
don't
young,
know.
I was really obsessed with it. So everything I saw, not only was I skating all the time, but anything I saw, or like I was always talking to people, like I always wanted to know more about skateboarding, and that helped me progress. Like watching those videos and seeing it made it seem possible once you could see someone do it, or understand, you know, it helped you understand it a little bit. So I can only imagine if I
Yeah.
grew up nowadays, I would just be like a straight like dopamine line or something into my arm, where I was just like skateboarding on all day long, you know?
Yeah. I suppose that yeah, it's like I suppose like skaters these days start skating switch dance from the first day onwards. It
Yeah. It's probably
it's not.
normal. Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
normal. Back in the day, it was definitely like, oh, you got to work on regular, and then maybe you'll get to
Mm.
switch, you know? Now it's like
Yeah.
probably switches right there in the beginning.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
teach skateboard lessons a lot nowadays,
Oh.
just to get people like rolling, watch kids get like learn to roll and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
I try to get them to push switch pretty early, just so they can get comfortable with that, and it opens up so many different tricks, you know?
Ah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel that skateboarding is more inclusive these days than if you compare it to the early 90s? Because I know that you write for World Industries, and that I think it's fair to say it's not the favorite era of skateboarding, and we're talking about 92, 95, and it was very, as I say, a lot of cliques and a lot of, is it more inclusive these days? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Nowadays I feel like it's just it's sunk into culture so much that
Hmm.
you could go to any random skate park anywhere and you'll see someone's grandfather rolling around, and you'll also see a kid that's like 5 years old learning to skate, you know, like
Yeah.
it's all ages. I think it's just a testament to like how much skateboarding actually helps people, you know, like so many people care about it and are willing to share it, that it's open to everyone, because people understand like, oh yeah, skateboarding helped me in life, helped me progress, helped me understand who I am, and challenged me and all that stuff. So but definitely like it, I'm sure in certain areas it still probably has those clicks and all that stuff, but it's amazing how like just in my lifetime I've seen so many girls get into skating. Like when I
Oh, yes.
yeah, it's amazing, because I like we definitely are all witnessing like the progression of girl skateboarding, like watching styles
Yeah.
progress and what's possible progress. When I was growing up, it was like a couple girls. Alyssa Steamer was like the only one in magazines, you know? It was
Yes. And
insane.
if I'm not mistaken, the other big name before her was Carabeth Burnside.
Oh, that's right. Maybe alongside her, I think, or
Hmm.
but yeah, there was a few other ones too, like Jamie Ray's. She was out of New York
Right.
City. Yeah, there was like but it was so few and far between, and now it's like it's unbelievable. I just see little girls everywhere just pushing it. You can see they have like the fire of like wanting to be good at skating and progress, and they got like little attitudes and stuff, and I fucking love it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's really very nice, because I've been in Connecticut. There's a local skate park that I've been going to, and it's a very there's no what was the term? There's no there's no bad vibes. You land a trick, everyone claps, and everyone pushes you to progress and are happy for you when you land a good trick. And in the 90s, it wasn't always like that. There was the term snaking. I don't even know if people still say snaking, but snaking wasn't, not waiting your turn on the mini ramp, just snaking someone, and, me first. And I think it's not like that.
I love snaking people.
You still do.
I do it and I just call it out when I'm snaking you, and just
Isn't it?
as a joke, kind of.
Isn't
But
there anyone
yeah,
who says, hey,
go
be
ahead.
nice, wait your turn?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, I'm like, I'm just kidding. You can have the ramp.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see that. Like, there's growing up, there's always like kids and people that I knew that were like they cared so much about skateboarding that they thought like they were just like it was their own little thing, and they thought any other version of it was wrong or like, you
Oh
know.
yes.
I think that's a young thing. Like when you're young, you're like, this is my thing. This is how I do it. Like I don't like that. It's easier to be so black and white, you know. But now it's insane because so many different types of people skate, like all colors, all ethnicities, all sexual preferences. Every type of person you know has found some value in skateboarding. So I think it's like harder to be so like this is the only way to do it. You know, you kind of see that in hip hop too. I don't know if you're into rap and hip hop at all, but like
No,
rap,
not really.
yeah, like growing up, like rap was kind of like that too. They would always just battle it out over their styles and be like, "You're
Ah,
trash."
right.
You know, they would be like, "This is how it's done, and yours is trash," and it would kind of like this competitive edge. You know, like they're just competing to see. But
Oh.
nowadays I think it's amazing, man. I think so many people are skating, and it's definitely inclusive, like in the sense that everybody's there to have fun. You know
Oh
how
yes. Oh
how
yes.
so you got into skating, and were your parents cool with that?
No. But parents back then weren't, were they? I mean, you know, if you it was a family shame. I mean, I have to say, my parents never watched this, but no, but that's the way it was back then. I mean, it wasn't for whatever reason because we mentioned girl skaters, which was interesting. I remember seeing one or two pop up, you know, and I like to think that we were accepting, you know, because it was I can remember one or two girl skaters, but it must have been it was just very hard to get into. It was almost a statement. It was, you know, I'm a skater and therefore I have no friends, and and you have problems with your in school, and it was yeah. I remember getting chased. I lived in very quiet suburbs where literally nothing ever happened, and I remember the police chasing us on a Sunday and running, you know, a whole gang of us skateboarding, just running out of an empty parking lot in a supermarket. The only crime was rolling around. Really, there was nothing to damage. There were no obstacles or anything. And that's just the approach that people had for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, that's how it was here on the East Coast too.
Ah,
There just wasn't enough people. Like if you went, maybe if you went down to like Florida or something, but definitely out west, the culture like they've been out there for so long. People are surfing, skating. They were way more tolerant. But on the East Coast, it's always like blue collar, like get a job mentality, you know. And you're dressed in baggy clothes, just like hanging out in
oh
fucking
yes.
alleyways, playing with a piece of wooden wheels. It's hard for people to understand what you're actually doing. They think you're just fucking causing problems, you know?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. No, it was it you were into bad things essentially. You were a skateboarder. There was very little encouragement, but then again, there was no structure around it, so people didn't know really what it was about. You know, the clothes were strange. The I think I think a lot of skaters also believe themselves to be very unique people. You know, you have to be fair also. And this, I was
Definitely.
you know, I was thinking about this recently. I think there was this core belief that we talked about cliques a second ago, and I still see this on social media on different, you know, whether it's heavy metal, hip hop, or you know, um, and there was this tendency to fall into a dogma, and you know, the dogma was. I think largely pushed by the very few avenues of information, well, you know, namely the magazines. And I don't know if it's fair to lay the. I'm tying this in with the girl skateboarders, but I don't know if it's fair to blame magazines such as Thrasher necessarily. But I remember they weren't always the most. There were a few sexist comments, as you know, in Thrasher magazine in print.
Oh,
Um,
do you remember Big Brother?
oh yeah, yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was, if anyone's guilty, Big Brother was, I mean, they smashed all the boundaries, but they let everything out. You know, the floodgates were open and they had some crazy stuff. Yeah, I
Was
mean,
it
go ahead.
was Big Brother rather good, or rather how should we see Big Brother looking back?
Big Brother was like the fuck it attitude. It was just like
Mm,
anything goes, you know? But they also were very like they would just broadcast anything, you know? It was like,
they would.
okay, yeah, they'd have that one dude who's like fuck girl skaters and they'd have a whole interview with him or something, you know? And then you would have the
Yes.
complete opposite, like later on, you know, they would do whatever. But if you just caught like one issue or one article, it could lead you astray for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, I don't know how they got away with it. There were things they did in that magazine that would cause them serious trouble these days.
Oh, dude, at one point, I think they were owned by Larry Flint, who
Yeah.
owned Hustler magazine, and
Hmm.
there was one point where they mixed the magazines up, and like all these young skater kids got Hustler magazines in the mail
Yeah.
instead of skate mags, which is
Oh,
fun.
really?
Yeah, they ordered skate mags, and then they mixed
Oh,
them up on
no.
accident and mailed them all porno mags.
Oh, no. Yeah, I still remember that centerfold. I think the model was called Rosa, and she used to pose in a swimsuit for shorties, you know?
Yeah, shorties as always.
Yeah, yeah. And I
I
had that up
I
in my room.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that like I did when I was young. I always thought like we were a little different. Like skateboarders were different. And I think we were different in the sense that we were rebelling, you know, against the normal. Back when I grew up, it was kind of a rebellious thing for me. Nowadays it's not so much. It's more mainstream now.
Yeah, but that's my question. I mean, what was the perception? I don't know. Was it were we made to be felt rebellious, or was it a reaction to not being accepted, or I don't
Uh
know. Was it that unique? Was it I don't know.
For me personally, I would say it's just because I had a lot of anger issues and things going on, and I didn't really fit in school, and all things were structured and adults and stuff. I couldn't deal with it when I was a younger kid, so I needed to work
Yeah.
on something that I could work on myself without having too much structure and too many people telling me what to do. So I kind of rebelled from like organized sports and all in school and stuff,
Yeah.
and just found a crew of people and something I could work on at my own pace. And like
Oh, yeah.
that's what skating was for me. I'm sure it's different for all people, but for me, I was
Yeah.
definitely like I couldn't deal with like a lot of people in social situations, and that's all what organized sports was. Is like you had to get in line, you had to listen to these people, like there's a pecking order. Whereas in skating, it was like no, we're all basically the same. What makes us equal is the effort you put into your skateboarding, and then we respect you. So if you're like you meet someone and you can tell they've been skating, you can see by their style how they carry themselves, and when they actually show up and do it, you're like, yeah, that's a skateboarder. That
All
transcends
right.
all the rest, you know.
But what were some of the other reasons you got into skateboarding? What was the aesthetic of it a part of it, or?
I just a kid was really nice to me. I needed a friend, and he was just cool, and he gave me a board, and he could do a kickflip, and I didn't even realize you could do stuff like that on
Oh,
a
yeah.
skateboard. So that like blew my mind. And then the fact that he was super nice to me and cool is just like I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And the fact that I could work on it by myself or with people, it had that aspect to it. So yeah, it's that's why it's kind of for the riffraffs, is because you don't have to follow all the rules and you can still do it, you know. Like
Oh, yes, yeah.
especially when I was growing up, you didn't have to follow all the rules, and you didn't have to, I tried to get on the basketball team, and they just they didn't I didn't make the team, didn't make the cut,
Oh.
bro. Yeah, and I couldn't play basketball by myself. I needed a team, you know. So
Yeah, no, I saw my wife said we need that skateboard because we saw your model. You had a Boston Celtics
yeah.
skateboard, that model. She saw it and said, "Oh, we need that. We need that. Tell him we need it." You know.
Oh, good luck. That one you'd have to find online. That
Mm,
was from like a decade ago. Yeah, that has a parquet floor on the top of it too. I love that graphic.
indeed. Are you still a fan of the Celtics?
Yeah, I go in and out. I'm kind of fair weather, unfortunately, but skateboarding trumps everything. So, but I keep a peripheral view of what's going on, and my friends are still super into it. So I hear all the stories, and this year was kind of crazy. So
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah. My wife's made me a fan, so I have no say in the matter. We watch basketball. That's it. So
yeah.
that's what I do. Until a year ago, I didn't know if basketball was played with a ball or with a racket, but now I've sort of, got into it.
Yeah, I loved basketball as a little kid, man. It's so fun, just to play
Mm.
too, and as a sport to watch. It's really cool to watch the stories and follow it all.
Yeah, but and we were talking about the X Games and the because I'm interested in knowing your view on the X Game. whether it, do you think did it benefit skateboarding?
Oh man, this is the debate that always keeps going, and I have my opinion. Not necessarily doesn't mean I'm right, but I grew up as like a street kid, so I found skateboarding, and like I said, I wanted to avoid all organization and adults and stuff, and just play by myself. And so the X Games to me, it was cool to see and all that stuff, but it's also just like not the version of skateboarding that I'm like, this is what I want to do, you know? So as far as helping, I think it helps bring awareness to skating, and it attracts people to skating, a certain type of person. But it's always like, it's the same with the Olympics. It's like, everyone's like, is it going to help or hurt? I'm like, it'll help some and it'll hurt others. It's same with the X Games. It's like, it'll help people that are into organized sports, you know, because it's a competition and there's rules and all that stuff, and the brands that want to cater to that and stuff, it'll help them out. It'll help all those team riders out that have those types of sponsors that want to see them compete and win and have a point system, and it'll help all those people out, because then they have a whole system set up so they can have a hierarchy. And but it wouldn't help me, because I was just like a kid who just needed to skate, and like what helped me was like a skate shop, and my friend owned a skate shop, and he was real nice, and he actually showed a lot of my footage to some small brands that sponsored street skaters, and that like helped me. And then I was able to travel and meet people and go out west, and like and that was just from like the core of skating. That had nothing to do with like competitions or big business stuff like that. And it so it's kind of a double-edged sword, and it's always a bubble, you know, because those contests come and go, and it's like you still need the core to be like there. You need video parts, you need skate shops, you need small brands that are like throwing events and hanging out and doing skate jams and filming the videos and having team riders and all that stuff. And then the contests come in, and they kind of like you know, if you're into that type of skating, it could help you. But I'm just not that type of dude. I'm more of a street skater at heart.
And as a professional, you never entered the X Games or tried to compete in that format?
So I tried to enter contests, but again, I just like, that's not how I grew up skating. I grew up skating curbs and using it more of a therapy, like just to escape life. So I don't do well in that situation, but I always want to. I always want to do well at whatever I try, and I loved basketball too. So I love the idea of winning a championship, you know. But my body, it just doesn't work that way. I'm like, no, I work better on my own, like with friends and in our own environment, at our own pace and our own time. Like whenever it comes to like time and limits and like rules, I'm like, I can't. It's not even can't hold my attention, to be honest. That's like. I can't do it. Yeah. But so I don't know. I think it helps and it hurts. It helps people that are into that. And I have a lot of friends that skate or into competitions and stuff like that. And I'm glad they have like an avenue, but you know, it's not for me. What about you? Have you ever done any competitions? And
oh no, I was never any good at skating.
no.
No. I was never any good, but no. I never even tried. No. But well, on the other hand, there weren't any skate parks. There was no. I mean, I could barely grind a curb. There weren't any curbs, you know. So I suppose I was reasonably good at flat land, but that's about it, really. Never tried a handrail. Never tried to. I think there's a tipping point, you know, in skateboarding. I can't explain it. Some skateboarders see you know, interest in trying to ollie those 10 stairs. And I looked at, you know, a set of 4 steps, and I said, the risk isn't worth the reward. I don't love skateboarding enough to hurt myself. And I don't know what creates that in a skater to want to leap those 10 steps or to grind a handrail. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain it to me.
Well, what that made me think of is like when I was trying to learn to skate bigger handrails. It was terrifying to me, like against my nature. I was like, I'm gonna get hurt, but I just kept at it and kind of forced the issue, and I did get hurt, you know. But eventually, I got used to it, and I was able to. I skated a lot of big rails because it becomes addicting. You're like, oh, I need that adrenaline rush. Right. I like that challenge, and then when you conquer it, you're like, you feel like a savage. You're like, dude, that was terrifying. And I chipped away at it for an hour until I got the ride away. And then you just feel like you conquered the world, you know? So that becomes addicting. But that first initial trying to skate something really scary, like something big.
Yeah.
especially if you're a smart person, which I fairly am. I'm fairly intelligent enough to know that I could get hurt, you know. I was like fighting against that. My brain is like, no, don't do this. But my body and then when I finally did it, I was like, well, that's all I want to do now.
Yeah, because it's not natural behavior at all. I mean, most people, you look at a handrail, I'm not going to grind that.
Yeah.
No, so I'm not even going to, I'm going to walk down it and that's it. You know, I'm going to roll around safely on my skateboard. That's the pleasure I have.
Yeah, I mean, and too, like if you have like a lot of aggression, or like I had a lot of aggression and anger as a child, and I needed an outlet for it, you know, and that was kind of the skate and destroy mentality, like Thrasher, like fuck it, send it, go big. Like I had a lot of that because you're just like, it's the angst of the whole world you're putting into something you're doing, you know.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's more of an 80s, 90s approach to it. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I was into gangster rap too, which is kind of same thing, you know. It's kind of like you just want to break all the rules, smash everything, do what you want to do.
Yeah, the famous skate and destroy. That was the approach, really. Yeah, skate and destroy. Yeah,
which helped, which helped me. You know, it hurt me and helped me too because I have all the injuries too, you know, to go with it. But but I also have like a lifetime of memories that I'll never regret. That I'm just like, people bring shit up. Then I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that, or oh yeah, we went there, or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your footage. Yeah, and dangerous handrail tricks.
Yeah, not so much these days. I'm 40 now, and I just was out for like a week with my back hurting. So I was just dealing with back issues, and it's just from like overuse, really, you know.
Yeah. It's unforgiving. Skateboarding is
So how like what age were you when you got your skateboard, and how long do you think like you were like skating for the most part?
So I'm 47. I started, what did I do? It's a bit blurry. So I must have been 13, 14, I think, 13, 14, and a kid showed up at school with it was a very gradual thing. So I first saw a kid at school with a Vision Psycho Stick, which, and that just, to me, skateboarding was a mixture of different things. For some reason, it attracted me. I thought it was just an amazing vehicle to move around. And it's all the artwork also. This whole culture that went with it, you know, the graphics. I'd never seen anything like it. And so I was really attracted to that. The fluorescent wheels, just that Psycho Stick, which my wife was kind enough to buy a reissue for me for a year ago. She bought the reissue Psycho Stick, so now I'm riding that. Impossible to do anything with, but still, it's a lot of fun.
What a legend! She's a legend for that one.
Yeah. I can't thank her enough. Yeah. And it was like almost like a childhood fantasy, you know, have the Vision Psycho Stick, and now I have it. Only 30 years in the making, but and so I 13, 14, and first I think, if I remember correctly, I got a Sims skateboard that someone gave to someone else, and it came my way. So now I was the owner of a Sims. I think it was a Kevin Starb. Yes, but he was before my era, because I don't remember ever seeing Kevin Starb in the magazine. So he was just before my era.
He's still going, dude.
Oh yeah.
What a legend! Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's I see him often on Instagram. Oh yeah, Kevin Starb. Yeah, definitely. And then odd trucks. I think I mounted my roller skate wheels on my skateboard, and but my first real skateboard I actually got brand new was I didn't know what I was doing, but I actually bought myself a double tail. At that time, Vision skateboards built a double tail, and in my innocence, I wasn't thinking switch dance or anything. I just thought, okay, so two tails, twice the wear. I can skate twice as long, on one skateboard. It's brilliant. And so that's my story. Yeah, and I think I had tracker trucks, and yeah.
Yeah, I remember Tracker. I wonder if they're still being produced. Haven't seen them.
I saw the logo recently. I think shops are still selling them, but I don't know if they have a pro team or anything. I don't know.
And I guess like what about, did you ever bring your skateboard to school? And obviously because my story is a little different than yours. Like you did pretty good in school, huh?
Well, no, not initially. No, not really. No, not initially. I actually, should I be saying this?
Sure.
I actually failed 2 grades. So in Europe, when you fail a grade, you don't move on to the next grade. They keep you back. You repeat a grade. I don't know if that done in America. Yeah.
Yep, same.
So no, I really wasn't focused on school at all, and I actually quit. I actually went back to college 15 years after graduating, so there was a long gap before. Yeah.
What made you go back?
Oh, wow, many reasons. Just because I'd never challenged myself with any type of formal education. So I hope not to get too deep into this now. But I had never, I barely scraped through graduation. And I just concluded that studying wasn't for me. I just went on to work and find jobs and whatnot. And then it stayed at the back of my mind. And then when I was 30, I think 32 or 34, around that age, I decided I had an opportunity to go back to college, and I thought, face it, try it. And that's what I did. And I was terrified. I had no method. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, just the fact of holding a pen and looking at a sheet of paper, and you say, where does the title go? Oh, here. Where do I, just structuring. I just had no method and managed to do it.
Yeah. And so let's kind of talk about nowadays and what you're up to as far as like teaching and educating.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm a teacher. So I'm a qualified teacher. I can teach in high schools. And I teach languages, so English as a foreign language and French. And where it ties into OuiCommuniscate, well, firstly, I decided to specialize in online lessons, which is really very similar to what we're doing here. You get all the attention of the teacher. Lessons last for an hour. I make notes, I correct the students. And
how many students?
How many students? At the moment, because I transitioned from the UK, so I had to sort of rebuild the company. So some of them came with me. So at the moment, I think around 15.
And how many do you do one-on-one sessions? You do group stuff?
No, always one-on-one.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, always one-on-one. And just because students get the full attention of the teacher.
Yeah, that seems like I teach skateboard lessons, and I do most one-on-one because I feel like you can help them more if you're not spread too thin,
Yes, I make a big difference between lecturing, which is a lot of what you usually get in schools, and actually teaching, which is more of an exchange. So it's coaching, really, similar to what you do in skating. It's more like, coaching. You're doing this wrong, try this, and correcting and following the evolution of students. And
Yeah. And was this something that someone turned you on to, or did you just start this yourself, or?
The teaching, why I chose teaching?
Yeah.
Well, when I approached college, I looked at all the options and I said, well, I'm not a biologist. I'm no good at maths. So the list got shorter and shorter. and I narrowed it down to say, I'm probably good at languages. So I went with languages. And so after I had that degree in languages and literature, it's called, then I qualified to be a teacher. I did an extra year to become a teacher. And I very soon got into online teaching when it was still relatively new, because I started doing that in 2016. And just recently I finalized the idea of OuiCommuniscate, because the logo at the back is OuiCommunicate, which is my main company. This is for speakers of English who are learning French. And there's a whole platform with videos and as well as the face-to-face lessons. And recently I decided to do OuiCommuniscate, which is an idea I'd had already, which I'd had it at the back of my mind for a number of years. The question being, was there a way to combine skateboarding and English lessons? Is there something to build on? And I made a program, and it worked. So now I teach English by using skateboarding as a medium.
That's so cool, man. That's like,
thank you.
That's just cool that you had a concept, an idea, and you pulled it off, man. You sound like me. When I started my skateboard company, it was kind of that too. It was like, didn't know what I was doing, had an idea, and then just give it a go and figure it out, you know?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's there's a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
See, I don't know. Yeah, because I'm well aware you do All I Need skateboarding, and there's something about obviously I worked for other companies. I worked for teaching schools, but there's something about wanting to build your own, to give life to your own vision, and I don't know why. I think I partly credit skateboarding for that.
Yeah.
Being creative, building, and it's a very DIY frame of mind. Well, at least it was, in the beginning in skateboarding. And so I think it's
why did you want to incorporate skating?
It's for several reasons. There are three main reasons. I actually made a little list.
Nice.
I was skating one day and I thought that there must be a way to use skateboarding to teach English as a foreign language, because all the terms are in English, and that's one of the first reasons. There's a whole lexicon, a whole vocabulary that a lot of skaters are already familiar with, such as we mentioned tracker, we mentioned, I don't know, it might be Eric Coston, it might be a Plan B skateboard. So there's this whole vocabulary of skating that a lot of skaters already know. And what I'm doing with OuiCommuniscate is I'm going from the specific to the general. So for example, why do we pronounce Eric Coston as we do? Well, there are reasons for that, linguistic reasons why we say Eric Coston and we don't pronounce it any other way. So what I would do in a lesson is show familiar brand names and build upon that and help skaters understand how English functions.
Yeah.
Based on what they already know. The second reason is that skaters are a passionate group of people, and it's well known that we do well the things we enjoy. So I remember when I was a kid, everything had to be about skateboarding. You'd go to a museum that had dinosaurs in it. My question would be, yes, but does it have skateboarding in it? Everything had to be around skateboarding. And so if you approach something with an open mind already, you're receptive to the learning, it makes it easier. So that's the second reason. So we're using skateboarding to build from the specific to the general, explain the rules of English pronunciation. And the third reason is real life situations. So for example, there's a lot of pictures in the lessons. So you're on a jump ramp, you do this. How do you say this in the past tense? How do you say this in the future tense? And little scenarios, and it helps to, I think, for a student to project themselves into a real life situation which they can relate to.
Yeah, that seems like I feel like if I was gonna learn a language, I'm coming to you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, but you already speak English.
Yeah, true. Well, you say you only teach English. Do you teach French too, or?
Yeah, I speak French. Yeah, I'm a native speaker of French, and I teach French online. But OuiCommuniscate is specifically for people who are learning English as a foreign language.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And so what I'm doing essentially is just I'm creating shortcuts. I'm building on what skaters already know, what they're already interested in. I say, well, you know how to pronounce this word. Well, let's build on this to see how it functions in the wider rules of English.
This is a weird jump back. That completely makes sense. This is a weird jump back, but I thought of it while you're speaking too. Is how do you feel about contests in skateboarding? Do you think it helps or hurts?
Well, I was thinking about this before speaking to you today. What's my opinion? I no really. So I skipped the X game phenomenon, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not an insider to the industry, so I don't know how it's perceived by the insiders of the industry. So I don't know what the locker room talk is about the such contests. I feel that if you're a professional, it's not, black or white question. I think if you're a professional, you welcome the extra money that the big sponsors can bring in, such as Red Bull, or to name them. I don't know who else sponsors the contest. But then again, I recently looked up the skater Chris Senna. Remember Chris Senna? He used to
Such a
ride.
legend. Adrenaline?
Yeah.
Remember
Oh,
Adrenaline
yeah. Oh, of
skateboards?
course. Yeah,
So
yeah,
sick.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. He used to, I think, ride for Powell, probably Toy Machine, and then Adrenaline. And just recently, I looked up Chris Senna. I said, I wonder what he's up to now, and he's a professional tattooist now. And but then I discovered that he actually plays super well at the X Games. I had no idea about this.
You would never expect that one, huh?
No. And he did really well. I mean, he at least placed first, or among the 10 first, at the first 4 X Games. And what it made me realize that it made no difference to me. Yeah. So it went completely under the radar. I did not know that Chris Sen skated at the X Games, and it didn't do anything for my perception of him as a skater.
Yeah. It's weird because when those contests first started coming around, there's a lot of dudes that you wouldn't expect to be contest dudes that got invited and went and tried it and did it, And you're like, I was asking that question about contests to you because I started seeing a way that it might help you with your business, because I used to skate in the Dew Tours. Do you ever see the Mountain Dew? They did a skateboard competition. They might still do it.
Oh no, I'm not familiar with it.
They were called the Dew Tours, and they would have all these stops, and they'd have competitions. And I got invited when I rode for World Industries. They invited me. They invited me, and I'm not a contest skater, but I needed to make a living, and they would invite like 12 skaters, and they would pay all the skaters, even if you got last. So even if I got last, I was making like $1,500 or something just for showing up, and like someone paid my expenses to go. And the crazy thing about it was they had all these competitions in all the basketball courts across the country. So I skated in the Boston Garden. That's why that graphic came to be, was they set up a Dew Tour in the Boston Garden, Salt Lake City, Portland, whole bunch of stadiums. We got to skateboard in them and do those competitions. And what I remember was there was always tons of Brazilians that would come, and they would do all these contest series, and they'd make a bunch of money, and then they'd go back home and they'd have a bunch of money from skateboarding, and they'd be able to build a life in their own country, And
of course.
But that made me think, I'm like, yeah, maybe some of them would probably reach out to you, because none of them really spoke proper English, So like to have someone like you to be they could make a living and learn the language, and it would only help all of it work.
Yes. Oh, definitely. It's something that's crossed my mind, actually, contacting the skate companies who might have, non-native speakers of English. It's crossed my mind. Exactly.
There seems like there's like a lot of Chinese and Asian skaters too nowadays that are like really big into skateboarding, and I think a lot of it's because of the contests and stuff. So like there seems to be an influx of like all these kids, and so that's another way to like maybe they need to learn English as well, because they're coming to compete in the Tampa contests and all the street leagues and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah. I hadn't thought of that, actually. Yeah. The contest is not contests are not something I was thinking about. Contests, it's really a complex question, isn't it, in skateboarding? Because we're talking about basketball. Like, if you take away the competitive aspect of basketball, there's no more game. The whole point is to win. You can't play basketball based on style, right? We know that, but you can skate based on style, right?
Yeah.
But then part of me thinks that the reason we have these contests, the big televised contests, is probably in some measure for the general audience, the non-skating audience, because if you don't, correct me if I'm mistaken, but if you don't structure it, if you don't have a number 1, 2, 3 on the podium, it's unwatchable. The general public wouldn't understand the structure. Like, where are we going with this thing? And is it fair to say that part of the existence of the big contests is, well, for in a strange way, not directly for skateboarding? Because I don't put much stock into whether it's Tampa or something else, but whether someone can stay on their board and do their 10 tricks on the stopwatch. Is it more for the general public, or does it really benefit skateboarding from the inside? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've always looked at those big contests is that it's usually a lot of corporate sponsors, and those people don't skate, but they just kind of buy their way in through the contest, because then they can make it package. Like, skateboarding's chaos and creative, and it can be all these other things, but it's hard to market that and make a lot of money off of it unless you unless you're like Ed Templeton, who loves skating and they put out tons of videos with Toy Machine, or Zero, or like, but for like someone who doesn't skate to like capitalize off it and build something, like, they go with the contest route because you just have rules, you get a bunch of skaters to run the contest, and then you have all these corporate sponsors. So it just depends on the angle that you're going into it. Like I said, a lot of Brazilians, when I was coming up, they would probably love contests because those corporate sponsors pay well, and then they go back to their country and they could open up a skate shop or start their skate brand with their checks, but I think a lot of those corporate ones are just like business plans from people that don't skate.
Really?
And I think that's where the resistance is in skating. I mean, it's changed a little bit with Street League, because like Rob Dyrdek kind of like it all stemmed from Tampa, which is crazy, because skate park at Tampa in Florida was the most respected contest, and it was because it was chaotic, and it was because they got the whole industry in fucking Tampa, Florida, which is weird because it's a random place. But Tampa let the Olympics in because they started growing and growing, and they saw all these people were into skating, and they just they started like bringing in the Olympics, basically, kind of like they built a point system off of the Dam Ams and stuff, which was associated with skate park at Tampa, because Brian and I believe it's who's the other, Ryan Clements. Ryan did the Dam Ams, I believe they were, and then they built a whole point system, which is how they pick the people that are in the Olympics. So they have all these competitions, and there's points and a rating. You enter all these competitions, and if you do well in them all, then you have a global score, and then that dictates who gets into the Olympics. But growing up, contests were always just ruled by the sponsors. Literally, you're like, oh, there's 10 Nike riders in here, and a Nike rider is going to win. You could predict that before you even saw any skating. You could be like, they pretty much bought the contest, and it was all kind of like, some skaters would be like, let's not talk about it because this contest has helped me, and other skaters are like, fuck this because I'm trying to compete in it. It's kind of rigged on some level, It's like it's a tough situation, especially in skateboarding. In other sports, they go through school, there's structure all the way through. With skating, it's like there's none of that. It's starting to get more structured in school. There's more like lessons and school stuff with skating.
Oh, with skating, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen so many.
Yeah, California was doing that years ago. They'd have a lot of school classes for skating and stuff like that. I don't really know how I feel about it, because I just know like skating helped me personally in life, just with my own issues and stuff, and it's brought so much joy in my life that it's hard for me to critique anyone who wants to do it, even if they're a complete jock and they're only in it to win a fucking trophy. Like, it's like, oh, that's their version. Who am I to argue it?
It's hard to play the integrity card when you're with all this money's coming in and it's your profession. You're a professional skateboarder. If the price to pay is to go to the Olympics or enter a contest that you're not particularly into, but it's hard to turn away that money, I would imagine.
I whenever I was sponsored, I realized, because I'm like, also that's why I started the skateboard business too. Like, All I Need was like, that was kind of like a weird thing for me, because it's like, it's weird to think like you got to kind of sell skateboarding, and package it up, and you got to be like on time, and you got to have a system and a structure. Like, But I realized that like as you get older, it's like I love skateboarding. I want it to be in my life. I can't always be the pro anymore. So I need to like adapt and grow and find another role, you know? So
Yeah.
instead of like having to compete and win all those contests to get all the recognition in the world and maybe be the next Tony Hawk if I'm lucky. There's only one Tony Hawk or one Nyjah each generation or one Ryan Sheckler. I was like, I'll just like create a skateboard brand and I'll teach skateboard lessons and I'll figure out how to press the graphics onto the boards and I'll start a skateboard team and we'll make skateboard videos and we'll do the skate jams and contests in our local area and just build it up and try to help people around us and find all these people that love skateboarding like I do, these people that are lifers, and try to create cool stuff and make a business out of that. That was what I always loved about skating. When you brought up art earlier, it's like, yeah, art was like one of the huge things that turned me on to the business side of skating, because it was like seeing someone's pro rider was like, oh, I want this art, and they created the art with an artist and this is their pro model, and like that side of it got me into like the business side of things a little bit. It's cool, man.
Yeah, I think skateboarding comes with a very DIY ethic, do it yourself, especially I was thinking of actually I was thinking what you're speaking. I was thinking about the artistic dimension of skating, and I'm torn between you know how there's so many more skate parks these days. The act of skateboarding could be seen as an art form also. So we talked about the graphics, but just the fact of giving a second function to an everyday object is very artistic. Like where people right? Where people see three steps, a skateboarder sees a challenge or a curb, or, you know, you reinterpret the city you live in. And I wonder if there's a risk of, with all the, if you fast forward like 20, 30 years, is there a risk of, with the multiplication of skate parks, that this unique, the street skater aspect of skateboarding might erode or gradually die down to the point where you might get a generation of skaters who only ever known skateboarding within a skate park? So is it possible?
I'm gonna say no, because I'm fighting that front on some levels, because to me I like knew right away. I was like a kid who grew up and I'm like, I'm not a contest skater. I don't follow the rules. Like I like to just go street skate. Once I figured out about filming video parts, that became my whole life. So the majority of my pro career, I made money off of filming video parts, pushing the boundaries and just traveling the world and filming team videos together. And that's how we were able to market and promote the art and the brand and all the products, was through our team videos and stuff. So that was half my reason I started the brand too, was kind of like a testament. It was kind of like because it got a little weird in skateboarding, where all these shoe companies came in and they started dictating, and that whole Tampa situation and the whole street league, and they have so much money, marketing dollars, that they can just flood the market. And I'm like, you know what? Like, no one owns skateboarding. I don't care if like Nike's. I actually had kind of a grievance with the Nyjah thing too, because people are always like, they get mad at you if you're like, I don't really like Nyjah. They get mad at you, not personally, but like, I don't like his skating, you know. And I have people that get mad at me about that, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, there's a bunch of bandwagon people that are like, you know, they all like Nike, 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 like sneakerhead people that are like, the hot brand is this and this, and then you have to like it, and if you don't like it, you're just hater. And it's like, no, there's just like, that's my version of hell. Like, I wouldn't want to be a competition skater. I wouldn't want, even if I had 20 monster girls hanging out and all the fancy cars and big mansions and stuff. It's like, no, I like getting dirty and street skating and traveling the world and like with my friends and like slumming it sometimes. Like, Nyjah's life is like, I'm really happy he exists and all that, and I'm glad that he's that dude. But like, for me, that's like too much pressure and too weird for me, you know? But there was a point in the industry where it was like, well, if I don't like push out what I think is awesome in skating, these guys are just going to buy it up, because they're buying up all the pros. They're buying up all these crazy and talented skaters. And it's like, as a pro, it's like, you're going to turn down a Nike check. They're like, yeah, we'll pay you this bunch of money and you get to live your dream. It's like, can't blame them, you know? So it's like, how do you kind of fight that? Is you create your own culture and you help people, the people around you, and you build it up in your local area. That's a good thing with the internet, is like, everyone has a microphone and a video camera, And
Yes.
if you know how to use it, it's a powerful tool. So like that's what I started doing. I started the podcast. So we could talk about skating and share the stories. So it's not just ESPN. It's not just fucking whatever magazine is bought up by whoever or whatever. It's different expressions of voices and different opinions and stuff like that. And then I started a vlog with my YouTube channel like a decade ago, where it's just like I go around and I film tons of kids and people and friends, and we've had multiple teams, and we travel and we just live the fucking life and we film it, and it's unbelievable to me. Like it's one of my favorite things I do. And but it was just kind of a like, yeah, I don't like the only way we combat that scenario where we all end up in street league or some fucking perverse world that I hate, where it's like no longer art, but it's Toyota championships where Nigel's in his shorts, his like spandex shorts, and he's this King Nigel and we all bow to him. The way you fight that is you build your version of it, you know? And that I always tell people to do that. I'm like, look, man, if you have a vision or you think this part of skating special, and then build it and share it and get people involved, and you guys can do cool stuff together. And like that's what All I Need is a testament of just like friends who come together to create art and videos and talk, and we've been doing it for over a decade, and it's been unbelievable. It's like yeah, it's awesome.
I've been on your web. Yeah, you started a long time ago.
Yeah, so the only way to do it is just like someone has to take on the responsibility. And like I decided like, all right, man, I'm not going to be able to be the sick pro anymore, but I can still like help kids get into skating. I can still build platforms where I can share other people's skating. I can turn my friends pro and we can create art. I can build a brand so I can do this. So you just take on those roles so the dream can happen, you know? And so... But yeah, because that was a real concern, man. I'm like, Jesus, we are gonna all end up in a big contest. Which is a nightmare.
I don't know if the insiders to the sport even watch it. I mean, obviously, kids go to the contest, whether it's the Olympics or not. I think there's a contest in Rome at the moment, which is probably one of the those elimination contests you mentioned to go to the Olympics. People show up and watch the contest, but. I don't know how people feel about that. The only contest I think I ever cared about was the that's a very old one. It's the Back to the City in San Francisco, because it was created by skaters. It's a very old one, but Radland's the one in in England. Remember that?
Way sick, man. Yeah. So I'm not really. I enjoy contests, but as like I enjoy it as if I'm watching a basketball. Like I like basketball.
Right.
And I look at contest skating like that. Like I'm just kind of like, it's more like a sport than actually what I like in skating. So, and now that I'm not like a pro skater, like I still skate and I still try to film tricks and stuff, but my job now is more like focused around building up the next generation of kids and people and friends. So the contest stuff doesn't really bother me anymore. It's kind of like a fad too. Like they're building it in yearly. So there's like schedules of contests, but even the Olympics is only every 4 years. We still need to have an industry of people like making skating seem cool and fun and epic.
Right.
Like, so to me, the real industry is all the skateboard shops out there, all the small skate brands, all the crews filming the team videos together and creating the actual culture and the hype and the love and just all that. And all the artists that are involved in creating graphics and stuff. Like all that to me is the heartbeat of it. And then contest is kind of like a secondary thing, you know?
Yeah, because I'm fairly sure that these big contests sponsored by non-skating companies also benefit the skating indirectly by giving it exposure, and maybe even your own company benefits from it. And
yeah, I'm sure there's some synergy there for sure, you know, but it's a tough road if you rely on just playing that game. Like I've seen there's so many good skaters that just like they weren't good enough to cut the contest circuit and you didn't see them anymore. They couldn't get a sponsor, you know? It's like,
really?
Yeah, there's been stuff like that at times where you're just like, all right, we need the guy who's going to wear the logos on the contest, and then they cut like the street skaters and stuff. There's been stuff like that in the past, you know? But I honestly believe now, like I said, we have cameras and microphones and you can create anything. So, because I that's what I've been doing it for a long time now, is just like when I moved back home and I just like got a job and I took my savings and I put it into All I Need, which was skateboarding, and started the brand, and then continued to do the fun stuff that I always wanted to do. And like, I've watched it grow, you know, not without a lot of hard work and faith, and like, you got to sacrifice at times. Sometimes you got to work. Sometimes it's going better than it isn't, you know, but like,
yeah.
I feel like nowadays it's more attainable to like build your version of skating and make it a business and have fun and with your friends. And
yeah, of course. And yeah. And I'm curious to know, do you distribute World Industries, or is it the opposite? Or
so what happened was, when the recession happened, I lost my sponsor, which was World Industries. They were paying me to live my dream, be a pro skater.
Yeah.
And then that's when I took my savings and I put it into starting All I Need. And then years later, my friend RP Best, who was working at World, he was leaving the brand, and he is the brand manager, and he just said, you know, you should get Shetler to, you know, see if he wants the job. So they reached back out to me after they had to let me go, and I was like, well, I already started my own brand and I'm going this direction if you guys want to go. So they're like, yeah. So technically brand manager, and then building the team. I built the team up, and I work on creating all the new graphics you see is through All I Need distribution. So yeah, it's All I Need, World Industries, and we just actually started a third brand called Spare Skateboards, which is based around my friend Nick Barth, his artwork, because I've known Nick since he was a little kid, and he's always had that spark for art, and like, it just lined up. I was like, this is perfect, you know. So
are you trying to push something very local, like local to Massachusetts, or is there a like geographical, I don't know, space you're trying to push in skating? Or
so it's crazy because with All I Need, it started in Massachusetts, and then we just go all over New England skating and filming videos. So then it spread through New England, and then we started doing trips down to Florida because we got invited to Surf Expo, which is a big trade show, and they hired us for like 8 years to throw a skate jam in their trade show. So we just started driving down and flying down to Surf Expo, Florida. So then All I Need started going down to Florida, and then North Carolina and all those states. Virginia started picking up our boards, and then Florida, and then Timmy's rides for us, Timmy Knuth, and he's from Florida. So it spread all over New England, then down to Florida, and then World came in, and that helped all of us get accounts out west too. So it started drifting across the country. It kind of went the opposite. It kind of went like New England, Florida, started trickling out to the Midwest, and then it jumped to California because of World Industries, and now it's kind of trickling back towards us from the West Coast, which is crazy. Yeah, so it's just it's been moving slowly because we just go slow and steady and just keep going, you know, try not to cut corners and try to get better as we go. And
it must be really gratifying to have your vision, to start your company and see it grow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, totally. It's a dream come true, man. And it's so cool. It's so cool with your business and getting skating. I was wondering if, like, do you ever worry that there's not enough skaters to like sustain it, like that need to learn English?
I looked at the business projections for the skateboarding industry. No, but no, there'll always be. No, the thing with English, it's French and English are two different markets. French is more of a luxury market. It's more of a hobby. Like there are a lot less people who actually need French. English is a necessity.
Yeah,
you learn it in school. You learn it all over the world. It's the international language. So it's more of a necessity. People will always need to learn English until it's replaced by something else. I don't know, but French and English, two different things. So I don't worry.
And there's enough of like because the class is structured around skateboarding, right? So it's like, there's enough interest that you can just do just the skate class, or are you doing other classes as well? And
the thing is, I do multiple things. The main my main business is OuiCommunicate without the skate in it. So OuiCommunicate is strictly French lessons, and then what I do with OuiCommunicate is I teach French specifically for speakers of English. I'm sorry, speakers of English. Then I have another teaching business called Day One English. The website is down at the moment, but that's teaching English to speakers of French. And then I do proofreading also. And then I just started OuiCommunisKate.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's so cool. Maybe for people out there that might be interested, man, or know someone who might be interested, can you just like kind of plug how they can get in touch with you?
OuiCommunicate.com. It's all the information is at OuiCommunisKate.com.
Nice.
And it's OUI, such as we, yes, in French.
Yeah, I actually took French.
Did you?
For a year or two, and people just gave me shit because they're like, you should have took Spanish because we're so close, you know? I'm like, I just thought it was cool, man.
In America, it's either Spanish or French, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
But I'm surprised at how much French I actually see in supermarkets, on product names and everything. There's a lot of French in the States.
Yeah.
I see it on products all the time. So,
How long have you been in Connecticut now?
Wow, almost 2 years.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. I'm still very new. I can't tell you what town is where, or I'm still very new. Yeah.
Well, if you ever come down to Massachusetts, we have an epic skate park. It's like 30,000 square foot indoor skate park. So in the winters, when you're like feeling like you're stuck in snow and stuff, just make a road trip down my way, man. It's like 3 skate parks in one, and it's indoors, foam pit. So fun, man. You'll meet so many people from all over New England, man, and beyond.
Wow. What's it called?
Skater's Edge, or actually, I'm sorry, it's The Edge Indoor Skate Park. The Edge Indoor Skate Park. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to work there and teach lessons. I still teach lessons there once in a while. Great family that owns it. I bought my first house. Me and my lady bought my first house from the people that own that skate park.
Right.
It's just an amazing place, man. If you want to meet a bunch of cool skateboarders and any day during the winter, like you go, it's gonna be jam packed. So
the winters are rough.
Yeah. Luckily, it's huge, so you can always find like a corner to work on your own stuff and.
Yeah, Tic Tacs.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's like a lot of hallways. So my favorite thing about the skate park is you can go in, make a left, skate down the hallway, go all the way down to the back, go over the A-frame, kick turn, come all the way back. You can literally just skate around in a big circle before you even pop an ollie, which is amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you see, that's another thing. We didn't have that when I started skating. It's my mum keeps saying you were before your time, because you started skateboarding back then. There was no industry, there was no structure, there was no interest, there was no. Now you have skateboard lessons in schools, in high school.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah, you didn't have all of that, and there's the things like I think Rob Dyrdek actually helped to build many skate parks, and Tony Hawk Foundation, things like that.
Yeah, there's good that comes with kind of letting the devil in too,
Well, yeah.
Taking that money, like taking the corporate money, because that was kind of my thing the whole time was I rode for Zoo York for a while, and people gave me shit because Zoo York was owned by Mark Echo, which was Echo, the clothing brand, and it was sold in Macy's and all these corporate stores.
Right.
So I would always get shit, but it was like, hey, they're gonna pay me to like street skate and film and like all the things I love, and then I took the money and put it into like core skating. So it's like sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do,
Yeah, but then again, I don't know how much time we have left, or if we're still talking, or do we have a time limit?
I got another like 10 minutes. I just have another. I have another conversation I gotta have after this one, but I got like 10 minutes.
Okay.
We definitely gotta do this again because you're fun to talk to, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm enjoying this. I was really nervous before talking to you, but I've never done this before, so thanks a lot for having me.
Dude, you're a natural. You're doing great.
I don't know if I've sold the idea properly. I should add to educators and parents and skaters watching that it's more than just showing up and saying, how's your skating day been? It's not just a random conversation. There is actually a structured program over the course of 10 hours with 20 lessons in which we cover all the essential skills of English. And that's OuiCommuniscate. I had to say that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And yeah, speaking of the devil, but then again, well, not in as in the expression, but as in letting the devil into the industry. You know, non-skate companies. I also feel that, and you know, correct me again because I'm not as much. I'm not an insider to the industry, but once you look at it, because we're talking about the graphics and everything, but once you look closely at the industry, in a sense, it's all a bit of an illusion. Is that fair to say? Because between the shiny board that you buy with the graphics, well, if you look at who presses the boards, I'm hearing now that there's a company, I forget what the name is. Is it EHX2 or 2HEX that presses a lot of boards in China? And there's nothing wrong or not with it, but I have a feeling that you have, you know, a number of skateboard pressers, such as Paul Schmidt sticks and whatnot. And but I feel that in a sense, the people who own the skateboard pressers don't probably necessarily skate either. So isn't it? I was also, I'll add to this, I was reading a piece by, I think, Dave Carney. Remember Dave Carney?
Yep,
He's to write for Big Brother.
Yep.
And he said something quite cheeky, a British expression, quite cheeky to apparently the owner of DC Shoes, whose name I believe was Ken Block. And and I think he said something to the effect of, how does it feel to be one of the most important people in skating if you don't, without being a skater? Does that ring any bell?
Yeah, totally. R.I.P. to Ken Block too, man.
Yes,
yeah. I think the business side of skating is totally where you can't be so core, because no skaters want to do accounting, you know? So you need an accountant, or, you know what I mean? So it's hard because it takes a whole village of people to get it done, you know? It's just, it's just my beef is just when someone comes in and tries to buy their way in and then control the whole industry. If you're going to work with, like, one of our best selling decks is Crush It Like Quint deck. It's a Narragansett beer. And that was actually through the podcast. I had a podcast, and I knew that one of the owners, Jim Crooks, he bought it up with his friends, and they were bringing it back to Rhode Island. They were bringing the brewery back. So I'll reach out to them, and I talked to them with the podcast and stuff. And from that became a friendship. And then we created some graphics for them. And then we did the Crush It Like Quint deck. And that's been our best seller, which has helped us go on trips and helped us create videos and art and turn people pro. And they're not skateboarders, you know. It's just like, but they saw my vision, and they saw what we were doing, and they wanted to help and be a part of it, and it was like, it worked well, you know. So in business, you can't be so core, you know. You can't be.
No, of course.
You got to be a little more flexible. So
of course.
But I am protective of, like, my version of skating. I still have that. I still, you know, I let other people live, but I really I love video parts, and I would hate for that to die. And with all the phones and the instant gratification of just posting a clip each day and never having to go out into the streets, and, like, people will just cheer you on even just because, you know. It's like a video part is something you work really hard on. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into it for like a year or two, and then if you do that with friends, you make a video together, and it's the best of the best stuff you could gather, and it's just like so rewarding. So if that ever died, skating would be rough, you know. And that's kind of been under attack, it feels. But I think people love video parts. I still think people like filming video parts. I don't think it'll ever go anywhere. We'll definitely still be doing it. We're working on a full-length video right now.
Wow.
I've been trying to figure out how to do it where we can do it all. Like, the vlogs are a lot of, like, traveling antics, like, fun, like a lot of skate park stuff. There's bangers in there and stuff, but I still been saving, like, stuff for video parts. So it's like, if you're watching the YouTube channel, you're seeing, like, a lot of our sessions, but there's some of the bangers I'm hanging on to. So you'll be like, if you watch that and then you see the full length, you're like, oh, dude, I saw him do that and that and that in the vlog, but I didn't know he did that, you know? So it adds layers to it if you can do it all.
Is there a preferred time to release a video? Is it like the music industry, or are there seasons to this? Or
Yeah, well, if you're doing it for business, you want to have most boards are sold in the summer out here, you know, so spring
Right,
and
yeah.
summer. So, but we film till it gets cold here, and then go on some trips during the winter, and then we start kind of figuring out when we're gonna release it for the spring and summer.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
can't imagine what it's like to film a video part. It must hurt.
it's a battle, but it's unbelievable. It's the best thing ever, man. It's probably only comparable to like making an album, but even more physical, I feel. Unless you're a rock and roll
Yeah.
dude, you're like doing crazy shit, but it's the best feeling, man. Because when you get like a minute of footage and it's like hours of your life, and you start to see, you're like, oh, I kind of have like a little bit of a part, and then you start being like, okay, now I need this, I need a line here, or whenever you're going, you're building on something. Every time you're going to a new city or street, you're like, oh, we can kind of like, you just build on that part, and it at the end of it, you're like, that was like a chunk of my life. It's the best thing. Video parts and team videos are the best thing in skateboarding, hands down.
Yeah, and it's still what we judge the skater by. It's still like their business card, so to speak.
Yeah, it seems like people don't want to do that. They want to just build a following, and which they can do through online and stuff, but for someone like me, it's like you got to have street skating. I sponsor people, and I tell them, I'm like, look, man, stop tagging me in so many skate park clips. Like, I like it. I think it's sick. Like, but that's just for you and your Instagram. Like, I want you to be out skating street, because that's what's going to help me move boards, because that separates you from every other skate park skater. Everybody skates a skate park. If you go out and do the work and get out in the streets and like have your own style and find your own spots and curate a whole video part, you're going to stand out. You can do both. You should do both. You should go have those fun sessions, film those fun sessions at the skate parks and all that stuff, but also be working on a video part. Otherwise, it's a term. It's like the park Billy, you know? There's like everyone, the skate park hero. Tony Hawk's doing a big contest promoting skate park heroes right now, which is cool, but I think street skating is like paramount, and that's my version that I love. So, but and also skate parks are just fucking controlled environments again, which is like competition. It's like they're meant to be skated on. Everything's perfect. You go on the streets, man, it's such more of a challenge. There's crack, there's people coming in and out of your way. You got to have patience. You got to control your emotions. You got to have timing. You got to know when to go to that spot. You got to know how to talk to the security guard. You got to like, there's so much, it's such a different beast, you know? So I don't think it'll go anywhere. I think that's like, a lot of people love it. So.
Yeah, plus many people don't have access to skate parks either.
So true, man. And that's the blessing right there. Cause like if I would have never gotten into skating if it wasn't for street skating. Cause like I was just like you, except you didn't have the curb. I actually had a curb.
No, we just had a flat surface. We were grateful for that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's all we had.
Hell yeah, Chris. Thanks again for doing this, man, and for connecting with me. I feel like I made a friend, bud.
Yeah, me too. Thanks a lot. It's been a real pleasure. I've never done this before, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries. And like I said, if you're in Massachusetts at all, man, if you come down, let me know, because I'll get free and I can show you some skate parks or whatever. We can just roll around and have some fun, skate through the city, whatever, man.
Thanks a lot. It's not too far away.
Yeah, I actually go to Connecticut a lot, man. I got some team riders out that way, so maybe I'll end up in your hood too.
Ah, yeah, because there's a beautiful little skate park here close by, in a place called Tunxis Mead. It's a park, well, an actual park with football fields, and so yeah, I hope you do. Yeah, definitely tell me.
I will.
Well, you have, yeah.
I sponsor this kid I believe he's 10 now, Elijah. He's a beast. You'll probably meet him if we meet up. So.
All right, yeah, I'd be curious to see that.
Hell yeah, Chris.